Well, is Trump a consequence of inverted totalitarianism?
Yes, I think that he is, as in like the linear progression. So the march through history from Reagan to now has given us, another Republican in the never ending change between, okay, it's the Democrats' turn. Now let's have a Republican for a few years. So like, it was going to be a Republican of some sort. But like Trump is an interesting phenomenon that I think actually is a bit of a threat to the inverted totalitarian kind of system
Right.
in a sense that, he is, I believe, as he claims to be, or his red MAGA uh, strategists would claim him to be, a populist. And the
Mm.
populist is outside of that system. Populists aren't radical centrists. They aren't the centrists that went through political school and were trained by armies and armies of PR teams and political scientists to produce the stability required to continue the expansion of the capitalist system.
Yeah.
Trump is very dangerous in that regard. And I think that's
Yeah.
actually kind of what's happening at the moment. Like Trump is kind of beholden to the neoliberal world order as it has been to a certain degree because it suited the capitalist class. But like they also want to see a little bit of change. I think in my theorizing with the way that global politics is going, neoliberalism is over, and we're actually going to move towards something that's more overtly authoritarian. And
Act,
so,
yeah.
you know,
Actually, sorry to just cut you off.
yeah,
Maybe the more apt analogy for inverted totalitarianism is you can see rather than the progression that led to Trump with inverted totalitarianism, I think you can see the progression with inverted totalitarianism from, say, something like Bill Clinton to George W. Bush with the Patriots
yes,
Acts.
yes,
Like
yes,
that is very much, you could definitely say, inverted totalitarianism linking up with manufacturing consent, because you don't get the inverted totalitarianism and the crackdown to the war on terror unless you had the manufacturing consent talking point of weapons of mass destruction.
yes, yes. And we're seeing like a version of that already. Or
Mm.
like we've just seen that recently with Iran. Like it's like, did the Americans and like their allies never learn this one when like the Americans claim that somebody's got weapons and everyone's like, I don't know. We can't find any of evidence of that. Do the attack now. Like, I thought we would have learnt this type of stuff. So that is definitely a weapon in the arsenal of American imperialism and
Yeah.
their desire to impose their will physically and violently on people that don't basically toe the line. People that put up a little bit of resistance are a danger and a threat and need to be dealt with. So that type of stuff was done, I think, at the behest of the corporate machine under somebody like Bush because
Mm.
they were still very establishment. But like Trump is, doing Trump kind of thing, which is he's Mr. Deal and he wants to make sure that he has the ultimate upper hand when he's bringing different parties to the negotiating table. He can tell, he's not rail that he's sorted out their mess, so they need to, calm down a little bit, and then he can
Mm.
tell Iran that whenever he feels like it, he can completely destroy them if he wants to. But like he's like the phenomenon that is Trump, like the reason that the popularism has started, that this populist fervor
Yeah.
that has started across the liberal democratic world, I think is a result, as is what you're saying, I believe as well, is like kind of a result of decades of inverted totalitarianism, i.e. decades of neoliberalism. Those stuff like austerity measures,
Yeah.
disregard for the local population and corporate all the way. Like, like the mantra for the last 50 years has literally been if the rich get richer, we'll all do better.
Yes.
All boats rise with a rising tide. Like all of that bullshit, like, trickle down economics.
Yeah, yeah,
All of that stuff was the mantra of this inverted totalitarian takeover, which is like, hey, just, if all the corporations do well, you'll all be fine.
yeah,
You'll do well with better scraps off the table kind of thing. And
yeah,
so like I think people are starting to see that doesn't happen. And like people, and this is the unfortunate reality with someone like Trump, people are kind of like, actually, you know what? Give us authoritarian, give us real totalitarianism, please. Cause like we prefer the in your face stuff because at least we know what we're dealing with. And that's the real phenomenon. Like you can see liberals like really scratching their head when it comes to Trump. They're just like, but like, he does all of the wrong things politically. He's literally politically incorrect.
yeah,
What do
yeah,
you people want? And like people are sick of it.
yeah, yeah.
People are sick of it.
No, no, yeah. The more I think about it, I think the idea of Bush and the weapons of mass destruction being much more of aligning with inverted totalitarianism, whereas, yeah, the I guess Trump and the iconic line from his original like 2016 campaign of draining the swamp. The whole point of draining the swamp is that, hey, the back and forth between the Dems and the Republicans, and they're not really being that much of a difference between the two of them. I know I'm the game changer. I'm the disruptor, and I'm going to completely change the game. And yeah, rather than being inverted totalitarianism, I'm going to be straight totalitarianism. And along with my little mate, Mancius Molbug over here, I'm going to be was it a corporate king? And
CEO King.
CEO king. I'm sorry, apologies, Mancius Molbug. CEO king and rule over America. I'll find a third term. I'll find a fourth term. All of a sudden, I'm shaking hands with my mate Xi Jinping being president for life.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be Trump, Ping, and Putin hanging out and they're all around the same age as well, hanging out until their dying days, ruling over their little empires, ruling over their little totalitarian empires. And, it seems like, and I've theorized this a lot in my content, my streams, it seems like this is a natural progression of capitalism itself. That it's reached a certain point now with the development of the means of production, things have become very, very centralized in fewer and fewer hands, fewer and fewer corporate hands. And so like you need a lot of money, a lot of finance behind whatever economic enterprise you're undertaking anyway. So it can really only be done by like massive, massive corporations. And like democracy isn't really required, like in the sense that we have it with universal suffrage. You don't really, in a world where corporations monopolize on things more and more, and their power becomes more and more centralized into, like I said, fewer and fewer hands. You don't really want people to have power in a system like that, because if people do vote for the wrong populist, not someone like Trump, because like Trump is a populist, but he's not a people's populist. And I think this is exemplified in the fact that they've just passed the big, beautiful bill, and it's full of things that just give absolute, tax breaks and wonders to not only the richest people, but the corporate sector. And it completely screws over working people. So he's not a real like populist in the sense that like he can whip up some popular energy, but he's not like in there for the actual people. But like if you get a real populist, like a populist that actually platforms on something like let's eat the rich, and then comes in and's like, let's, get the barbecues going. Like that's really dangerous.
Yeah.
That's really dangerous for a system built on corporate power. And I don't think inverted totalitarianism is going to cut the mustard anymore. It's too vague. It's not on the nose enough.
Yeah.
You actually need a strongman to come in and control your population, if you know what I mean, for us.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where I think capitalism is going to kind of save itself. And like, you know, as interesting as inverted totalitarianism is, and it's a great way to understand the world that has gotten us to this point where we are, and, you know, might carry us into the next decade or so, I don't foresee it hanging around too much longer because we're not going to need the inverted part anymore, if you know what I mean. That's an unfortunate analysis.
Well, yeah, and that kind of brings us towards the like techno-feudalism, right? Because
Yeah.
if inverted totalitarianism comes from making democracies into corporate states, um, and those that are running the corporate states are those that control the data, control the means of getting value within society, then you're kind of screwed.